Jeannie. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Nikki from Tyrion's Landing,
a podcast member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready, because geekiness begins in
3, 2,
1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
This guy gets more airtime than the Kardashians, right?
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper, award-winning favorite newspaper, the Starling Tribune. I'm the chief editor tonight. My name is SP, and your main reporters for this episode number 172 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
So it's all right for me to go to Vegas, is what you're saying.
It is. Just don't take any of the Starling Tribune's money with you. And Michelle.
Do I really look that stupid?
I refuse to answer that question on the grounds it may incriminate me.
Or
but no.
get you killed.
Yeah, you do not look that stupid. Hey, everybody, this podcast is recorded on Sunday, October 22nd, 2017, live via geeks.live. Remember, our audio newspaper is chock full of spoilers, facts, speculations, and everything else about the TV show Arrow and the rest of the DC TV, movie, and comic universe.
And tonight we'll be discussing Arrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the last week that could and very well could. Wow, I can't talk. Well, let's put it this way. They could impact future episodes of Arrow, as well as The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Vixen, Constantine, maybe even Black Lightning. If we go crazy, maybe we'll go back into the back catalog and touch some of the old stuff.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Woohoo! We got through the intro, and now we have a great episode ahead of us. Michelle, why don't you start us off and break it down for us?
Sure. This week's episode was Tribute, Season 6, Episode 2, originally aired Thursday, October 19, 2017. Director, Laura Belzy. She has many credits, including 1 episode of Flash, 5 episodes of Arrow, 1 Chicago Med, and 1 Blind Spot. Writers. The story was by Adam Schwartz. This is his first Arrow credit. Has also written 3 of Fred the Show and 26 episodes of So Random. Teleplay by Mark Guggenheim, who's the executive producer. And Beth Schwartz, very familiar to us. She has written 21 episodes of Arrow and 2 episodes of Legends.
Woohoo! A very stocked full creative team for this episode. I'm particularly intrigued by Laura Beasley. This was her debut episode this season, but has had episodes before, and I think she did an awesome job. So way to go, Laura, and everybody else on the creative team. By the way, this was not the only DC TV comic book show on the CW this week. It was a full slate. If you run back to Monday, the 16th of October, Supergirl aired the Triggers episode to a live audience of 1.76 million. That's not bad against Monday Night Football. Not bad at all. On Tuesday, we had both Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. Flash with the episode Mixed Signals came in with a live rating of 2.54, and Legends of Tomorrow with the episode Freak Show came in with a live rating of 1.58. So that's the bar, 1.58, 1.76 to 2.54. Any bets on whether Arrow achieved more than the bottom line this week? Chris, what do you think?
I'll bet no.
And Michelle?
No.
You are both correct. Arrow just edged out the bottom ranking of the 4 shows with a live rating of 1.51 on Thursday, the 19th of October. So still looking forward to climb that ladder, and overall still looking forward to more ratings. But remember, you got the CW app, which is amazing. And it's free, and I can see these ratings continuing to stay where they are, and more people actually watch the show the day after because it's on the CW app. So we'll stay tuned in case we can crack some of those numbers in the future. In the meantime, we did have this great episode of Tribute. And Michelle, what's with the overall theme of Tribute?
Well, this one was actually kind of a reach for me because no one actually said the word tribute, at least not that I heard. So it's not like somebody, I could point to it and go, hey, they said the thing and the thing. So I was thinking perhaps it's either Oliver needing to pay Anatoly or tribute, or Anatoly feeling like Oliver needs to pay him tribute of $20 million because Oliver has broken the Brought for Bro code, or Oliver's finally stepping up and being a dad, which is what Samantha wanted. So I don't know. What about you guys?
I like the Anatoly tie-in just because it meant that Anatoly was back this week. So we'll go with Anatoly's getting tribute paid to him in the form of cash.
Which didn't happen, but yes, I'll also echo that.
Attempted tribute.
Oh, well, there you go. Attempted tribute. He knew he had $20 million and he was just clamoring to get it. The one thing that he didn't take into account, though, by the way, is the police station needed to be rebuilt. So you can't ask for all of it. You ask for a little bit of it. And that's how the mob works, is they skim off the top. He just wanted the whole thing. He needed to skim, not get the whole thing.
That's right. He should have known better.
Yeah.
I suppose so. So Arrow is known for its fights, and we love talking about our fights. So, Chris, why don't you break the fights down for us?
So let's start with our first one, the Markovians attack in the warehouse. And then we get Lance playing his best version of GTA 5 as he's mowing people down in a van as he drives away. And people are firing at him, and magically no rounds penetrate the body of the van. Although there is some nice little glancing blows off the windshield that eventually turn it into sort of Swiss cheese.
I don't know about that. I think some of the rounds did penetrate the van. I mean, unless the van is bulletproof. I mean, that big machine gun, that squadron level gun that was rapid firing, I think that would have penetrated even an armored vehicle.
One would think, but nobody took any injuries from hundreds of bullets being fired into the van. It's like the A-Team, guys.
I know.
Well, what if Anatoly told him, don't hurt anybody in the van? Take out the tires, take out the engine, but don't take anybody out inside the van. What if he said that?
Then why are there bullet holes in the windshield?
Maybe they knew it was bulletproof.
I mean, they had to get the hostages, and hostages are only good if they're alive.
It's true. They don't need all of them, just some of them.
So eventually they have the hostages, and of course our team wants to find them. What's the next good fight when they find the hostages?
Oh, this one's fun because Oliver sets a dude on fire. I like fire. That's what stuck in my head to me. I was like, what is he? Oh, he just caught him on fire. This is awesome.
It's a kitchen fight. You have to have fire in kitchen fights.
I was kind of hoping he'd use his bow a little bit more, but I'm okay with some fists and fury and fire instead of bows and arrows.
In a kitchen, even an industrial kitchen, it's close quarters. I don't think there's really enough room for arrows to be flying around.
You know what would have been cool, though? So he picked up a kitchen knife and was like, whah! And threw it across and nailed someone with it or something like that.
Or nailed them to the wall, like with their shirt or whatever.
Just a glancing, slight flesh wound as the shirt gets nailed to the wall with a kitchen knife.
That would have been cool. Cliche, but cool.
I can live with cliche as long as it's cool.
So, but they only find 3 hostages. There's 4, and they only find 3. The main guy they don't get.
That's right. The foreign minister or whatever it is from Markovia. The big wig, basically.
But the most important part of this fight, though, is the fact that Diggle, once again, cannot take a shot.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Dig.
Not at all. Which happens again when they're in the shipyard. And this is after Diggle and the Black Canary have a little chat of Black Canary saying, what do you mean something's going on with you? The doctor obviously said something's going on with you. something is obviously going on with you. And I'm out in the field with you every day. I need to know. And Oliver needs to know. He's like, I got it. Don't worry. I got it. Yeah, that didn't work out well.
Well, no, I mean, because that's one of the things, Dinah and Diggle really was like the team. And during that last fight, the shipyard, Dinah has to take care of herself. And you can't have that in the field. You got to make sure everybody is with you 100%.
It makes sense. It's the same thing that Diggle has said in the past to Oliver when Oliver was having his own mental issues and things like that, not having his head in the game, is that if we're doing this, I need you here 100%. You need to have my back.
And then later, Black Canary almost died because he couldn't take a shot. I mean, that was a tricky shot to take anyway, but He's supposed to be a professional. He's supposed to be a superhero. So let's assume that in normal circumstances, he could have taken the shot, knocked the guy out, taken out his head, taken out a knee, taken out a foot. I don't care. And given Black Canary the advantage in that little one-on-one fight, she obviously got out of it later because she's just that good. But after that, he doesn't tell Oliver. He says he's sorry to her, but he doesn't tell Oliver. And then Oliver asks him to be the Green Arrow, and he doesn't mention the fact that he's got nerve damage.
Yeah, I have my own issues with that when we get to it later. And does anyone else think they're going to make a magic microchip just like they did for Felicity that solves the nerve damage?
Some drug, serum, microchip, something, yeah.
Yeah, probably. And then we had Curtis with his T-spheres again. What are we thinking of Curtis this year with his T-spheres? I will call them T-spheres, even though I want to call them something else.
Well, they're effective for him to fight with, more so than some of the fists and punches that he was throwing before. Just throw a T-sphere that has like course correction, so it just thwacks people. It's pretty cool.
I still don't understand how they work.
Plot.
They fly around like little UFOs. I mean, they even make the UFO noise. Like the Jetsons. That's what they are. They're from the future. The Jetsons.
I'm so making that my ringtone.
I wish I could. iOS 11 took away the ability to make private ringtones. I haven't figured it out yet. Ugh. Anyway, another thing that happened here with Curtis, and I know we're going to get to it later, but does anybody see a problem with these ultimate super achiever brains going into business together with Felicity and Curtis making their own company? I mean, Felicity, first of all, she ran Queen Consolidated into the ground. And then Curtis hasn't been doing so hot either with work. So I'm hoping they can work it out, but they have some significant issues to work out there.
Yeah, especially when they talk about writing in code in languages that isn't actually code.
Well, now, wait a minute. Felicity didn't run, Queen Industries. That was Palmer Tech. Okay? That was Palmer
Tech. Company, though. It was rebranded. Same company.
Yeah. Well, no. Name makes a thing. And we learned that her money has run out. Probably because she kept that really big apartment and she wears a different outfit every day. Let's
just assume that it's in an environment much like Vancouver. You got to figure the heating bills alone for that loft sort of space are going to add up over time.
No joke, man.
And also, I still don't understand how she got possession of that loft because it was Thea's that she bought with Malcolm's money. And then Oliver lived there. And then Felicity lived there. So did she buy it?
It's actually rent controlled, and it's from Malcolm's great grandfather. And the rent is actually $10 a month for rent control. That's the whole deal behind that.
So basically, Felicity, it was just all the shoes and dresses. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, SP?
That is exactly what I'm saying. She ran herself into the ground, heating the place and buying clothes.
Ah, but Curtis has gotten successful side gigs, though, coding.
Yeah, he's probably just writing stuff on Fiverr for people, and we know how well Fiverr works.
No, it's TaskRabbit. He's on TaskRabbit, and people are just finding him that way.
We'll go with that then.
Buddy, I need some code written. Where do I go? Some cheap place on the internet. And I can totally see Curtis doing that too. So Yeah, they both need money, so I hope it works out for him. We know Oliver doesn't have it anymore either. So how is he? Oh, I was going to say, how is he affording Reza? But that's because he's mayor, so that's probably why.
Remember,
And
they've said before, just because Oliver is no longer a billionaire doesn't mean he's not rich, too.
Yeah.
He's just a millionaire now, probably.
And we learned that Curtis and Paul are actually divorced because he said, I didn't take a cent from Paul in the divorce. Which, first off, aw. And second, why not, man? It's 2017. Take the cash.
Yeah, I think he might have been looking at it more of the reason this divorce happened is me and my insistence on wanting to go out there and become a superhero and forcing him to have to live in a life that he didn't want. So maybe part of him felt that that was the right way to proceed.
If this is what enables Paul to move to a non-superhero enabled city or supervillain enabled city, I'd be fine with it. Go, move, get out of here. Odds are he's in town though, so I'm thinking. In the back of my head, I'm thinking we're gonna see him again sometime. Maybe at Big Belly Burger, they're gonna run into each other, and it's gonna be that awkward moment where Paul has a new boyfriend or a new husband. Yeah, I can see this going wrong. Poor Curtis.
Yeah, when I live tweeted this, I combined Curtis and Felicity into Terrific Watch because they were working together on the photo. Because at the end of last episode, there's a photo of Oliver as the Green Arrow, and then they're like, it's fake. And so those two are the team. They're teamed up this week. They're doing the photo. They have to find the Bratva, and then they have to diagnose a disease from a photograph. So how do we think they did this week?
Oh, they certainly did a good job of pulling stuff out their butt.
They did pretty good, but I have to take umbrage. What did you call him? Terrific Watch?
Yeah. Terrific
Okay.
Watch.
Terrific Watch. Okay, so I just have to take umbrage of that because Felicity corrects him and she says Overwatch and Mr. Terrific. So Overwatch is first.
Well, overific sounds weird.
It does.
Just a bit.
It does. So Felicity, sorry you lost out on this. Michelle says so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the whole photo thing that took all episode and got the FBI involved. Did the photo bring the FBI in, or was the FBI already interested in what was going on in Star City?
I think the photograph gave them an excuse.
That's exactly it. They might have been interested before, and especially when you've got Argus and weird things going on with Argus, which is a government organization and working with a potential criminal in the light of Green Arrow. Yeah, they've probably been looking for a while, and this photo is just an excuse to kind of come in and go, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what's going on.
Couldn't Argus intervene with the FBI and say, no, it's one of our special ops. We got it.
It depends on how they set it up. I don't know. That could be the magic out in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, but Argus is supposed to be secret, though.
Yeah, but if people in the FBI probably are briefed to Argus, the fact that it exists. I mean, otherwise things are just too crazy to not believe that an organization like that exists. I have a question for you guys. So you've got two Green Arrows, or basically, we haven't gotten there yet, but I've said it already. So Oliver asked Diggle to be Green Arrow. We've got the crossover coming up in just a few weeks. It's not that many episodes away. It's like, 5 episodes away or something like that? By the crossover, Oliver Queen has got to be in the Green Arrow suit, yes?
That's the thought, yes.
There's a thought, and there's a news item we'll go over.
All right. So I'm just watching this episode, and that's what I thought at the end is, I don't know if this is going to actually pull off for the crossover specifically. I think Oliver's, even if Diggle's in the suit for the rest of the season, in the crossover, we're going to see Oliver Queen there. Okay.
So Oliver ends up deciding to become, basically just a mayor and a dad because of all the events that happened in this episode. And what did we think of when the moment of Oliver in the car with William, and William gets beat up by some mean old 8th graders, and William, I feel your pain because I remember being bullied. And they're in the back of the car, and what's Oliver's big advice?
Punch
To fight.
the biggest and baddest one in the nose. which I liked. It's Oliver Queen, man.
Which might work actually, but the kid keeps trying to bring up stuff. William is the kid. It keeps on trying to bring up stuff, and Oliver doesn't want to hear. I mean, I'd be at least interested to hear what's the first thing that William had to say, but instead he just shuts him down and says, I gotta go. I mean, what's one sentence gonna do? It's gonna be 20 more seconds that you have to leave. No big deal. I think he should have let William say something, because William could have said, oh, but they called you the fake Green Arrows, whatever, something about Dad. And Dad, in this case Oliver, could have said something like, it's okay, I don't care what they call me, I'm gonna fix this and we'll talk about it later. What was wrong? I mean, couldn't he have just let William say one thing?
He's not used to having to balance things. He's used to the phone rings, I gotta go take it immediately. It doesn't matter what's going on. That's how I took it, at least.
Yeah, I've been noticing that more and more too, by the way. All these superheroes, the phone rings and they immediately answer. Really? You can't let it go to voicemail not one time?
Voicemail? What's voicemail?
I don't know what that is, SP.
Yeah. And who's calling each other? Gosh. How come they just don't text? I can't believe they're still calling each other and talking to each other on the phone. Oh, and what gets me the best moment for me is when Anatoly FaceTimes with Oliver his demands.
Yes. And if you think the FBI is not watching, if you think the FBI is watching Oliver Queen and didn't see a FaceTime message come through and be like, what the what? Come on. FaceTime's not encrypted. It's not secure. I'm sure it could be intercepted. But it was funny.
It was. So Anatoly says he's an honorable man and that he could have done something even worse. And because at the end, at the shipyard, after Felicity and Curtis come up with like the way for the antidote, and Oliver actually shoots the antidote into the guy, Anatoly kills him. And I'm curious, do you guys think that he's still an honorable man?
His form of honor, perhaps. I mean, to an extent, he's honorable. In light of Oliver Queen, like, he's right. He could have gone after his son. He could have done things that are far worse because he knows about Oliver, about Oliver's secret life. He could have sent the doctored photo in to put the spotlight on him. So in Anatoly's mind, it was honorable that he just went after him for the money. It was all about the money. He didn't go and make it personal.
He made it personal when he killed the Markovian.
No, that just felt like a temper tantrum to me.
Maybe, but you kill another person. I mean, it's not honorable. I mean, honorable would have been, okay, I'm beaten, I'm going to let this guy go. And I don't know.
Okay, so the reason why Anatoly is back is because he says that the Bratva has exiled him because they see him as weak. And if we go back and we look at Oliver's interaction with the Bratva, even from season 1, Oliver, for me, has basically always used the Bratva to his own advantage. But when the Bratva has said, okay, we've done this for you, now you need to do this for us, Oliver hasn't exactly been the best Bratva captain. So I'm going to argue that Oliver broke the Bratva bro code first.
Oh, numerous times. And in fact, the problem is Anatoly let him off the hook for it numerous times and never really took him to task for it. So that's why you could argue that the Bratva sees Anatoly as weak as well, because this guy you brought in, who's supposed to be your brother, who helped you through all these things, he keeps basically disrespecting the code of the Bratva and disadvantaging the group and exploiting us for his own means, and you do nothing.
I know that Oliver broke the code first, but that doesn't excuse Anatoly's behavior here. It wasn't just the Markovian. There were security guys that they shot. Remember, inside the warehouse, as they were talking about, there were other guys that were killed in this whole thing. So I don't know. This many deaths surrounding this, especially especially coming from an executive producer that had an anti-gun episode last year. It's
Well, that just goes
hard to
back to
reconcile.
that goes back to why that anti-gun episode didn't really work on this show. But we don't need to get back into that one, I don't think.
So, are we thinking that the writers are saying we need to make Anatoly a bad guy, definitely, and so we're just going to have him kill this Markovian guy, and that's going to just make all of the viewers like Oliver more and forgive him for not being a good Bratva captain?
It's hard not to like Anatoly, and you cannot not like Oliver and keep the show going. I mean, to get the ratings up, they have to have people like Oliver Queen, and I don't know. I don't know if this is a smart storyline to have this season or not. I mean, eventually having the two of them team up again and work together on something positive would be great. But we're not there yet, and this is just a very confusing episode between the two of them, from my point of view.
I don't know when we get Anatoly back, to be honest. It could be a while, and I think this is more of Anatoly shooting the guy and doing a plot against Oliver is in part to show that, okay, the Bratva's done with Oliver, the Bratva's done with Anatoly. That's not something to be leveraged anymore. And it also kind of goes to show another instance of how Oliver's choices have impacted his friends, or his brothers in this case, because he knows he's exploited that relationship with Anatoly, and now Anatoly's on the outs of everything. Anatoly's trying to make his way in the world, and he's lost as well. He's killing people. Remember, this is a show about people that have always been killing people, though. Let's be honest. I mean, Anatoly's killed many people in the past. Oliver's killed many people in the past. So that part doesn't faze me just because that's what they've always done. Now, killing someone just in an act of spite like that is slightly different, but I think they're trying to show that Anatoly's basically lost and he's a free agent and things now.
True.
Yeah, and we have the vigilante still out there. We've got Slade still out there. Things are obviously not in place as to where they're going to be towards the end of the season right now. So that's why I'm just saying it's confusing to me right now. I don't know which way they're going.
Another confusing decision was Oliver telling Diggle to become the Green Arrow. So we learned Dinah finally gets Diggle to admit that he has nerve damage. And he was going to tell Oliver, but Oliver was like, hold on, bro. I want you to take on my job as Green Arrow because I could leave William an orphan and you have a kid, but hey, you also have a wife. So why don't you become the Green Arrow for me? Wise decision?
It's a little bit further than that because there is the ongoing FBI investigation. So that kind of complicates things. And if you put somebody of a different skin color in the suit, then the chances are it will deflect further against Oliver. So it kind of hits all of the issues, including that one of the FBI investigation. But as far as the family versus family thing, I think that's a really tough decision to base this on. So you have to go with the FBI investigation as well.
As far as who deserves it, it's most certainly Diggle. If someone's going to take up the mantle of the Green Arrow in a semi-permanent basis, you would argue it should be John Diggle, who's had Oliver's back since very early back in season 1. It makes sense in that regard. Now, Oliver's reasoning for why he's dropping it and then asking John Diggle to do it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, I spend a bit more time in the Arrow subreddit now, and while sometimes it's toxic to some ideas, sometimes what they affectionately call their S posts, because I don't want to curse on the show, they're sometimes right. And there was one that they put up that's an image of Oliver standing there and says, Diggle, I need you to become Green Arrow because my son needs me. And then there's a picture of John with his wife by his side holding his son going, no problem, Oliver. I mean, and that's how I felt. I was like, wait, you can't do it because you're worried about leaving your son without a parent. In this case, the only parent, I get that. But you're going to ask your best friend, who's been doing it for years now, who has a kid and a wife, to go and take the role because you're worried something might happen to you. So you're going to dump that onto John. I was kind of going, doesn't compute. I mean, it makes sense it should be John, but your reasoning should have you going, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't ask John to do this. It's going to be badass on screen.
Yeah, but do we think Diggle's going to make a good Green Arrow? I mean,
Well, we
But-
see in the preview that he's not using a bow; he's using a crossbow. So there's going to be some obvious changes, and the costume looks to be slightly redesigned, probably in part because David Ramsey's got bigger arms than Stephen Amell.
Did they take off the sleeves? I didn't look.
Well, I think they had to make the sleeves bigger.
Hashtag make sleeves bigger.
Make the sleeves bigger.
Yeah. So one of the things that's upsetting me is that Diggle hasn't told anybody about his injury. And it's like, haven't we spent the past 5 seasons learning that keeping a secret from your team is not a good thing? I mean, isn't that what the past 5 years have been about?
Yeah, but everyone in this show, Diggle included, has always been bad about admitting to some kind of personal weakness. I mean, and this changes his entire picture of himself in his head. The fact that he's a soldier, he powers through everything, he's been great with firearms, been great with hand-to-hand, and all of a sudden, he can't do part of the job that he wants to go out there and do. So I think part of it is, if he doesn't have to admit it to someone, he doesn't have to quite fully admit it to himself. He might be in denial a bit. Until he gets his magic microchip that fixes everything, just like Felicity.
That is hard to reconcile with this series as well, because we have been down this road before, and I think Diggle, of all people, would know that he needed to fully disclose what's going on. So I'm a little put off by this line of story because it's just not true to the character. Now, that said, the explosions on Lian Yu could have shaken him up something fierce. I mean, that's where the nerve damage occurred anyway. But still, I would be a full disclosure on what happened, because I don't want anybody else to get hurt because of something that I can't do anymore. And I know it's tough for him to admit that, but he's getting older. He's a dad. He's got to take care of his family. I think just from the aspect of putting himself in danger is an issue.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, I don't know, Diggle would have been the first one to, I think, admit it. You know, like we said, he's a soldier. He's been there from the beginning. Oliver's his brother. I think he would have known. Oliver would have understood. So.
I think so. They've
Anyway,
been through together
yeah.
too much in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So does anyone else have any final thoughts about the episode?
Other than
go ahead.
Other than the inconsistent stories of what's going on right now, it's still setting up the rest of the season. I think last episode was tying up all the loose ends from the previous season, and now we're starting new, and it was very confusing. I really hope they start solidifying a lot of the stuff as it goes forward, because the show really deserves better than what it got in this particular episode. Let's go back to the fights, right? So one thing that I said about this series going into the season was that the fights had got to get better. And while there was a lot of quick cuts, at least the action was better that was actually shown. It wasn't it wasn't just moves or missed moves or stuff that you're like, well, a 2-year-old can do this sort of stuff. It was higher level stunts. So I appreciate that part. But the storylines, oh man, it needs to get a little bit better. And maybe this is just a storylines in Arrow that I'm just not used to seeing, which is a good thing to shake it up as long as it gets better by the end of the season. So still looking for that ramp up for the rest of season 6 here.
I want more moments between Renee and Oliver like we've had in the first 2 weeks, where they get to have, a decent conversation. And this time around, you have Renee try and be like, hey, you're a parent. Here's some parental advice about how to handle things with William, because he's got a bit more experience than Diggle and certainly Oliver himself in the show. Granted, he doesn't have his daughter now, but he spent a great deal of the beginning years of her life with her and is trying to get her back. So having Renee try and put Oliver back on the right path was kind of a nice flip-flop of roles for a little bit there.
Yeah, I know. We still have a lot of setup. Like SP mentioned, we have Vigilante still out there, and I know we still have the Dragon coming, and then we're supposed to have Michael Emberson be some sort of mystery villain. So we do still have some setup. And hopefully we'll learn more next week. Next week's episode of Arrow is called Next of Kin. It's going to be episode 3. It will air Thursday, October 26, 2017. A rogue Black Ops team led by Onyx breaks into Cord Industries and steals something lethal. Oliver struggles to connect with William, so he reaches out to a surprising source for help. The episode's directed by Kevin Tinkeron and writers Speedweed and Oscar Balderrama.
Speedweed's a co-executive producer for this entire season. I saw on the credits. I was like, oh, it's Speedweed. Yeah. So there you go. It's going to be a good episode. Cord Industries, though. I know we've touched on this before, but you think we'll even get mention of a Blue Beetle?
That sounds like something they might come up with in Legends at some point. Some mention of the Blue Beetle. I don't know if we'll get it in Arrow.
Yeah, Blue Beetle and Green Lantern need to be mentioned in one of these shows at some point in time. I could see Green Lantern being brought up in the Flash more than Arrow, but Blue Beetle, I mean, if they're going into Cord Industries, I wonder. Well, we'll have to look out for any behind the scenes Easter eggs for Blue Beetle next week. In the meantime, it's time for some news. From the main news desk on the 52nd floor of the Starling Tribune executive building in downtown Star City, Michelle has some news on that Green Arrow twist.
Yeah, EW sat down with Stephen Amell to discuss season 6, and during the interview, Amell said, quote, "The Green Arrow can be more than one person. The Green Arrow is a symbol, and his team is a symbol. The fact that we are pushing Star City in the right direction is something that is important to me because I don't want the city to get destroyed every year. It's been a very strange time for me on this show because we're talking about going on 4 episodes now where I'm really out of the mix, and that's been challenging for me." When it comes to Green Arrow, Amell said that Oliver is out, and Amell hints that Oliver and Felicity, as I have been saying for months, that they could be getting back together. I have been saying that Olicity will happen, and I'm going to say that I'm right. So
Yay, Olicity. Woo.
I don't think they learned the right lesson here. I think if this is the case, they're learning the lesson that our viewership needs Felicity to happen. And I think that's just the wrong message to learn from what's happened.
Well, he's got to end up with somebody, right? I mean, it's first off, you guys keep saying this is a CW show, so they got to have a romance. And he's a single dad. And I mean, the whole him with a Black Canary, that ship, I think, has sailed. The writers got themselves into a corner. I think that's gone. And, him and Felicity have that great chemistry. So I'm sorry, but I think those two are going to end up back together if they're not already together.
Well, I mean, they've already been hinting at it. It's just, hopefully they learned the right lessons from what went wrong with that. And it has potential to not go well. But again, I guess that's what you want a CW drama, is relationship drama. Yay!
Do we like the fact that perhaps this is going to move into more of an ensemble show, that Stephen Amell might not be Green Arrow at the end of the season?
Wow. That's a great question because of the contractual reasons, right? Because he signed that 7-year contract. But if they write him out, then they don't have to pay him money and they can still keep the show going at a lower rating. That is an interesting thing, but I don't know if anybody would watch an Green Arrow show without Stephen Amell in it.
I don't see that being the case. I see it more of the case of, hey, seasons 1 through 5, it's all about Oliver Queen and his story. It's all about what happened 5 years ago leading up to now and how it all links together. We've gotten past all that world building, past all those flashbacks and things like that. You're into a world now where the narrative allows itself to focus on more than just one person for more than an episode at a time. Like, we got some one-offs where it was focused predominantly on someone else, but now we've got a full ensemble cast. You don't have to have Oliver be the center of attention and everything. So I think that might be more what they're gearing towards, is the fact that, hey, with everyone here now, we can do things a little differently. And let's be honest, we really think Oliver's not going to be under the hood here in about 6 episodes.
Huh. True.
Yeah, I mean, it's the crossover. He's going to be back in the hood. I don't know if he'll stay back in the hood, but he'll be back in the hood for the crossover. So I think Stephen Amell knows this, and he is just stating something in an interview. Maybe he was told to state this, that we're trying to create some intrigue, but don't worry, you'll be back in the suit eventually. This could all be a ruse.
True.
Oh, next up. Sorry, I was in my own little world for a second there. Let's talk about Wild Dog, and we teased that last week a little bit, is that the Wild Dog co-creator not so happy with the season 6 costume. So if you aren't familiar, Wild Dog co-creator Terry Beatty isn't quite on board with the new look. He said in an interview with CBR, quote, "The change erases any trace of the original Collins Beatty concept for the character. I would not be surprised if his name gets changed before too long as well. Whatever was unique about his street-level costume has been replaced with the current standard issue dark armored uniform, a generic 3rd Imperial Guard from the left, death blood stroke strike image, big gun kind of look." Sigh. Beatty made sure there was no misunderstanding surrounding his feelings about Rick Gonzalez, who plays Wild Dog in the show. He said, quote, "I will tip my hat to Rick Gonzalez, who I feel has done a fine job in the role and has a strong screen presence. I wish him luck in going forward with this and whatever else he does down the line." So I kind of agree with him a little bit on the look of Wild Dog. It was unique because, like he said, it was street level, the hockey mask look and things like that. I kind of wish that, yes, they upgraded his tech. They at least kind of made it still look like what he had before. I wish his mask was white and looked like a hockey mask still. And his tunic maybe, or his armor looked a little bit like that hockey jersey versus just generic body armor type stuff. I don't know. Am I alone on this, guys? You guys with me?
I'm not. I agree, because it is kind of interchangeable now, because it doesn't really, it's just, what is it, like red and black now?
That's what it looked like. So you don't have that white that pops. That was the thing I thought last season, is everyone else's costumes are so dark. When Wild Dog, showed up, you always get this flash of like blue and the white mask that popped out of nowhere that you could see like, oh, Wild Dog's here. Now granted, not great for stealth, but still looked cool.
So you don't have anybody with a red costume left on the show, because Thea's in a coma and Roy has left the show and left Starling City. At the time, it was still Starling City, I think. So you have nobody with a red costume. So I can see them trying to bring back the red onto the team. But that said, it's not the Wild Dog character. And I just didn't like it too much. I mean, it was jarring last week. And this week, again, it was like, it's just a standard henchman almost costume. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing that says Wild Dog to me. It's a suit of armor.
Yeah, I liked what he had before. I mean, it made sense that Dinah had to get a costume because she was basically just wearing jeans and a leather jacket with a mask. Yeah, give her a bit of more of a uniform, something like that. But Curtis had a uniform. Everyone else has a uniform that kind of makes sense with their look. And then Wild Dogs are just like, it doesn't feel quite right. And maybe that's something they'll tweak going forward. I don't know.
I hope so. I hope they continue to respond to feedback about this, and maybe the latter part of the season, that's something. But remember, don't we have Rakeman coming back later on this season too?
That's the rumor.
Yeah, for at least one episode.
And we have no idea what happened to Artemis. We're just assuming she's gone.
Did Slate? All right, I need to go back and rewatch. Someone on the Arrow subreddit had said that one of the Al Ghul sisters went back for her. Was that Nissa or was it Talia? Or am I just not remembering and I'm just believing the Reddit thread?
I think
Slate said somebody went to go look for the girl in the cage, but I think Nissa would be the one to go look for the girl in the cage. So that would be Artemis.
Yeah, so we could assume that maybe Nissa got to her and got her off the island. So who knows what might come out of that.
But neither of those had a red in the costume, because Ragman was mostly green and gray, right? And then Artemis was mostly black, I think?
Mostly black, yeah. But Nissa did have black in her costume when she was working with them, but that wasn't for long.
Nissa.
I miss Nissa. She was my favorite. She was a
Is she
badass.
is she stuck in that alternate universe and still a soccer mom somewhere in Iowa?
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope not.
That would be cool. We could go look her up. All right. So that is the news on Wild Dog. We're going to move on into feedback for this week. And what do we got for that, Michelle?
Well, I posted a story on Facebook about Black Canary and Diggle. Some people thought that perhaps they were having an affair because of the way they've been like interacting. It's been like those two. And they're like, no, they're just friends. And I'm like, yes, they better. And Scott replied on Facebook that it seems that men and women can't be friends. And I replied, I hope they do keep Diggle and Dinah as friends. And, Scott is like, I agree at 90%. The forced relationships they try to shove down our throats. I think the only ones I really liked are Vibe and Gypsy. And I loved Ray and Felicity, which I love them too. And, they should save all their forced hookups for Dynasty and their other drivel shows. So Scott,
I like it.
Scott agrees with you guys.
Well, he did also bring up Barry and Patty, which I think, as far as chemistry on screen, was much, much better. I do miss that. Patty moved on to go to what was it? I want to say Central. It wasn't Central City. It was
Coast
another
City.
Police department, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
And so I wish her well there, but those two had chemistry, and I just don't see that chemistry with Barry and Iris. But that aside, the main point is Black Canary and Diggle. And man, that would be a sharp blow to the show, because Diggle is married with not one kid, but depending on what dimension and universe you're talking about, 2 kids. So yeah, I have a little bit of an issue with that. So I hope they don't go down that road.
I don't think they are. I think they're setting up the fact that these guys have a friendship and the beginnings of a partnership. Because go back to what was happening last season. I never got romantic, touchy-feely overtones to it. It was more like Dig's happy for her, that she's going out and she's starting to live her life again and find an apartment and things like that. And I don't get those kind of sparks here. I just get that, hey, these are 2 people that work together, they're friends, and they have a relationship based off of that. It's not the fact that, oh, I love you and I love you. No. And I really hope they don't go towards that path. And I don't think they're going to, because again, like you said, Diggle's married. Diggle has a kid. Fingers crossed that they don't go and screw things up like that. But it just wouldn't make sense to me. Men and women can be friends. Just let that be the case in the show.
Yep. I sincerely hope that's the case. And oh, by the way, Michelle, stop blowing up my phone.
It's not my fault that you have Twitter notifications turned on your phone. I live tweet all 4 of the CW shows: Supergirl, Flash, Legends, and Arrow. Starling Tribune Twitter account. During the Flash, okay, so the CW Flash account had this GIF. It was Iris and Caitlin and Kid Flash running up, taking action. And I RT'd that with the caption in all caps, all of this. And for some reason, this got 115 retweets. And as of this recording of this podcast, 1,032 likes. I have no idea why. Thank you, everybody. I just, one of the things, you never know what will strike. And if to all of those who live tweet and all of a sudden you get followers and everything like that, just remember to be yourself, because you were yourself before the followers, so continue to be yourself after. But to all those who liked it and retweeted it, thank you very much. To the new followers, thank you very much. So yeah, that was interesting.
It's not the first time my phone has been blown up by a co-host live tweeting the show. It happens all the time over on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Michelle, I think this was the first time at this magnitude with Starling Tribune. So congratulations, keep it up, and I can't wait to get my phone blown up in the future from your live tweets. Yay.
Sure thing.
So guys,
All right.
go ahead.
I was going to say, Chris, yeah, we touched on it before with Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are part of a network, the Gonna Geek Network. It's got a bunch of geeky shows on it. And what can people look forward to watching or listening to this week?
So like SP mentioned, there's a ton of shows on the network. And each week on the Starling Tribune, we try to take one of those shows, give you guys a little bit of background on it, highlight it, and say, hey, maybe you guys should go check this out. And this week, we're going to talk about one of our newer additions to the network. It's the Super Geeky Playdate, and episode 59 is entitled Top 5 Soundtracks. So here's what it's all about. They say, our good friend Max stops in, and by weird coincidence, so does our arch nemesis Randy. We discuss Justice League, Star Wars, Black Panther, and all the best music. So you guys can check out Super Geeky Playdate over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. And hey, also feel free to check out all the other shows on the network, including all the stuff that streams live on Geeks.live. So guys, thank you everyone who did watch live, participate in the Geeks.live chat room, and anyone who downloads or replays the video at a later date. Don't forget you can download the podcast directly from our website over at StarlingTribune.com. You can also catch the replay videos on YouTube and on Twitch.tv.
Remember, you can always catch us as we record live Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and you can find all of our past shows over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
We would love to hear from you. We are the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this concludes another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag bigger sleeves.
At the Chris Farrell.
He stole mine, so I'm going to go with hashtag relationship drama.
And I am at Michelle Ely signing off with hashtag overific. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.